How's it going, guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So in this video, I wanted to review the latest release from Glycine for 2019, and that's their bronze version of a combat sub here on the left. This is the reference number GL0187. And I also wanted to contrast it to the older stainless steel version of a combat sub. And this is my personal watch, which I've had for about 3 years. It's the reference number 3863.196N. Now you can see both watches share similar glycine design language and case dimensions. So both watches have a 42mm case size. If you flip to the side, lug to lug, you're looking at 50mm. You can see the profile is very thin. These watches are only 10.5mm in thickness. And then the lug opening for these straps are 22mm. So excellent proportion for dive watches. But let's look a little bit closer at both watches, and let's start off with the dials. So let's take a look at the Glycine Combat Sub at a macro level, and look at how nicely applied those maxi markers are on the bronze version of a sub. And if you compare this to what you see on the stainless steel version of a combat sub, the indices are simply printed on, but they're still quite legible, I'd have to say. And then if you look closer at the 6 o'clock position, you can see that you have combat automatic sub 20 atmospheres printed on the dial for the bronze version, as well as the stainless steel version too. And both versions have a 24-hour military time printed inboard of those indexes. So with respect to dial color, for the bronze version of a combat sub, Glycine decided to go with a gradient style dial. So you can see it's kind of a lighter gray or anthracite color near the 12 o'clock. And then as you progress downwards towards the 6, it becomes a darker black. Now I find this type of gradient dial a little divisive at times. Sometimes it might even look a little cloudy near the 12 instead of just having a high black contrast. But overall, I think the legibility is very good. As I did mention, at the macro level, you can see these beautifully applied maxi indices. I think it just adds a bit of dimension to the dial, which is very surprising, again, considering how thin this watch is overall. And you can see that as opposed to the stainless steel version, the second hand has a nice red accent to it, as opposed to just a plain white handset. And the actual minute and hour hands are different too. You can see that there's a Mercedes shaped hour hand here, although there's no Mercedes logo. And then you have a sword style minute hand, and it's a little bit thinner than you would find on the stainless steel version. Now I think one of the big improvements that Glycine made with this particular watch, the bronze version, is they upgraded the Lume, which I think a lot of consumers complained about. Although personally I don't have any issues with the Lume you find on the stainless steel version. There's just a lot more surface area with the Glycine Combat Sub in bronze. So let me throw on a low light head-to-head comparison so you guys can check out the Swiss Superluminova on both timepieces. So as you can see, both watches light up fairly well, although as I did mention, just with the pure surface area for the indexes and handset being larger on the bronze version of a combat sub, I think the luminescence will last longer and is brighter overall on the bronze version. And another nice feature of the bronze version that's absent on the stainless steel version is you have the border of the date aperture loomed as well, which is kind of a neat feature. I wish more brands did this. I think it helps with orientation, and it's just kind of quirky as well. Another update that Glycine made to the bronze iteration of a combat sub is with the bezel action. In this version, it's 120 click unidirectional. Extremely satisfying clicks and nice resistance to the bezel. And the alignment is excellent as well. Now, the old version, the stainless steel version, also had good bezel action, but it was only 60 clicks. So more pronounced detents on the 60 click bezel, but I just think you can fine tune the adjustment of the bezel to line up with the minute hand a little easier on the bronze version when you have a 120 click bezel. Now, even though the case for the Glycine Combat Sub is bronze, I do believe that the insert on this bezel is aluminum. Now, if you look at the finishing for the Combat Sub in bronze, you can see it's pretty much just a bead blasted bronze finish everywhere. Nice texture on the bezel. I like the oversized crown. In fact, I think the Combat Sub probably has one of the best crown tubes out of any dive watch. You can even see how thick, and there's no play in the crown whatsoever. Both watches run what Glycine calls the caliber GL224, which is essentially a slightly modified ETA 2824-2, which gives you about a 40-hour power reserve. You got that 4 Hertz movement, so a nice sweep on the second hand, and you can hack and hand wind the movement. So you can see if I pull out the crown all the way, I've hacked and stopped the second hand. You can push it in, and then you can manually wind the Swiss movement, which is very smooth to operate, and no problems whatsoever rethreading the crown as well. So I love the crown on the Glycine Combat Sub. I wish more dive watches just had a bigger oversized crown like that. Now if you flip the watch over, you can see that the bronze version actually has a stainless steel caseback. And this is done commonly for bronze watches because obviously the caseback will be resting against your wrist. And if it's stainless steel, it's not going to cause any type of reaction, and it's not going to oxidize or give you any type of decoloration on your wrist. And you can see it's nicely screwed in, aiding in the 200 meter water resistance. And then you have that classic Glycine Combat logo, the trident with the seal surrounding it. And you just have some information about the watch being automatic and having a bronze case. This is a very thin Italian leather strap, but it has a composite weave on the top. So this almost looks like a lizard style grain pattern, but I don't believe it's actually leather. But it's very comfortable. The leather underside is very supple. And then you also get the assigned Glycine buckle. And I actually thought this buckle was bronze as well. But flipping it over, you can actually see it's stainless steel, just colored the same way to appear bronze. Now they could have done that to the caseback, which is just your standard stainless steel color. But it doesn't bother me that the caseback is obviously stainless steel. You're not going to see it as you have it on your wrist. Speaking of wrist shots, here's how the bronze Glycine Combat Sub sits on my about 7.5 inch wrist. You can see with those nice downturn lugs and low profile, it sits extremely comfortable. I do enjoy the supplied strap that it comes on, but because this watch does have 22mm lugs, and again, it is low in profile, this thing is an absolute strap monster, just like my stainless steel version of a Combat Sub was. Alright, so are there any negative aspects to this watch? Well, again, I think overall, I think the design and features you get on any of the Glycine Combat Subs is phenomenal for the price you pay. I think the MSRP for these watches are still around like $1,000, but check the used and gray market, and you can easily find these between $400 and $500 US. As far as negative aspects, I'm not a huge fan of the dial color. I just wish they went with a matte black dial like they did on the stainless steel version instead of this slight gradient pattern. In addition to that, I'm not a huge fan of the handset. I wish they stuck with the broadsword style hands that they had on the stainless steel version instead of having that really thin minute hand, which isn't as nice to read. And with the hour hand there, that Mercedes shape, that big bubble there in the center, it definitely obstructs a lot of the text. So if it moves close to the 6 or 12 o'clock, you're completely blocking out any of the writing. And that's opposed to what you see here on the stainless steel version, where I just think that the handset is cleaner and more legible. So I guess overall, if I had any critique, I wish they amalgamated some of the features of the bronze version into the stainless steel version. You know, if they took the applied indices from the bronze version and put it on the stainless steel version dial, keeping the same handset on the stainless steel version, that would be amazing. And if they also took the 120 click bezel and put it on the stainless steel version instead of having the 60 click version, I think you would have a killer watch. That would be hard to beat. So guys, that about wraps up the review of the Bronze Glycine Combat Sub. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to see your feedback. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so you stay updated on future content. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.